Hello, everyone, and welcome to the August 16th Contributor Summit NA meeting. As a general reminder for folks, these calls are recorded and we post on the internet when someone on the YouTube admin team gets around to it, which will probably be me later, but whatever. We abide by the CNCF Code of Conduct, which essentially boils down to please be excellent to each other. With that, I will drop a link to the notes again in chat. And we can kick things right off. Honestly, I don't have too much updates right now. So Deb, you're kind of the default go-to to start. So do you mind?
Sure thing. Happy Monday, everyone. First off, some upcoming deadlines. Today is August 16th, which means it's the finalized AV request and room layouts deadline. I don't see Laura on the call, but I do know we chatted about it last week, and she said if she was going to make any changes, she'd let me know today. So I will keep an eye out for those if they come through. August 20th, which is this Friday, is the t-shirt artwork deadline. Josh, how are we tracking with that?
Well, I was waiting for people to vote on whether they were okay with the current design. So that was shared out to Slack like last Wednesday or Thursday. Wednesday. And I've had a few people +1 it. But if we could decide at this meeting, and if that design is acceptable, then I can get you a vector today.
I personally think go for it. For reference, I will drop a link here if anyone has not seen the thread.
I think maybe what we actually need to decide is it lightweight hoodie or is it a t-shirt?
Yeah.
Yeah. So far, lightweight hoodies has the votes. So, if you like me loathe synthetics, then you better get in there and vote.
I am okay, like honestly, either way. I was just looking for stuff that would match the blue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no. The people who've spoken up on the thread so far like the hoodie idea. So, okay. So, do we need any further vote on the design? First of all, are we good with the design? Going once, going twice.
Do it.
Still trying to get to
Done.
the
Okay, that's our design.
If you in Summit staff, if you
sorry.
Yeah, if you scroll up, it should be there. Yeah. In fact, it's the last message in Summit staff outside of Nancy joining.
Yep.
And then in the thread itself, it's just trying to decide what kind, yes to design, but what kind of shirt to go for.
Yep.
I'm gonna have to check the budget for that lightweight hoodie though.
It might be expensive.
Yes, it may be over budget.
Okay.
I thought budget wise it was
so I can get, the price range is between $25 and $33, and our budget all in for bags and stickers and all the things is $5,000. So no matter what, it looks like we're budget, but let me find out by how much and see what we can do.
Yeah, the other two shirt options are also significantly cheaper. Their range is like $17 to $19 and $17 to $19. Okay.
They're consistent. Okay, let me find out what we can do about that.
Okay. I'll go ahead and send you a vector, Deb, and then the vendor can tell me what's wrong with the vector I sent. Oh, come on,
Sounds
this is what is it, my fourth or fifth one of these? I know how this works.
Sounds good. I'll look forward to that then. Well, then those are the two deadlines. So moving on to Reg, just as an update, right now we have 12 in-person attendees registered and 14 virtual attendees. I know, Bob, you said we were going to do some comms to continue pushing this.
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
I would definitely advocate for more comms, and at that count also does not include any staff. That is just attendees. Yeah, and like I personally know about 20 people that have not signed up yet that are probably closer to 30 people that have not signed up that are Googlers. Here is it's at the top of the notes.
Okay.
For the Reg link.
Oh, okay. I should probably sign up as staff.
It's okay. I haven't done it either.
So I actually last week had reason to reach out to a handful of our SIG leads about Summit, and found out that none of the ones that I had reached out to were going to KubeCon in person. Have we done any sort of general broadcast to the SIG leads to find out how many of them are going to Summit?
There was a informal poll from Ben in the Chair and TL Slack channel. Lots of people like in person is the plan, but like, you know, just kind of pending. A lot of people are honestly just 50-50. I think like, I'm curious if people are holding off registering until they get a better idea of what things will look like. So we might wind up in the like situation where, say, mid-September, we get a big push of people registering, whether for in-person or virtual.
Okay.
We're in a situation right now with the international participants that people who aren't US citizens really can't travel to the US without some sort of good excuse. So I'm a US citizen, so I can travel back and forth from the US to the UK. But this is a big problem for international people. And I think a lot of them are waiting because there's been talk of the US opening up to other travel from other locations, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, the other thing is, if you work for a large corporation, the approval process for travel right now is complicated. I know for our staff, whereas they would normally only need to get one approval to go to KubeCon, they now need 3 different approvals from 3 different people.
Yeah, ours requires VP approval right now.
So
Same. So like, I don't know how we can potentially gauge that. We did a poll before we did all the planning, like kicked off the planning meetings, talking about like, would you attend in person if you can? And honestly, like I remember a good chunk of people wanted to if they can, but that's the question. And then sentiment towards all this is a question. We could try sending out like another poll, but I don't know. I honestly don't know how much of a response we'd get.
yeah, well, and I think we'd get a lot of maybes is what would happen.
Yeah.
I think if we're going to send out another poll, we need to wait until either the US guidelines have changed or we get closer to the event, in which case maybe some of the corporate travel guidelines have changed.
I would either way suggest sending out more comms, like sending out like another update, just as a reminder to the mailing list, is like, I don't know if we have the in our copy of the data of who registered when, but I can tell you, like, at least in past events, it's just like after every email blast, that's when people would register. So it might be worth just sending out like another, hey, reg is open type thing. I know Laura's not on the call right now, but does anyone have any idea if people put anything to the CFP? Because that might be another sort of indicator for us.
Oh, let me take a look.
Yeah.
I would also keep in mind, I mean, typically we would see a lot of registrations up front because people know their travel plans, they know what they want to do, you know, in a normal world, that's what happens. But COVID's a very fluid situation right now. And when we sent the poll, Delta wasn't a huge thing yet, the variant. It is right now. But if we look at the trends in other countries that have gone through this, they should start decreasing in the coming weeks and people may feel more comfortable again. There could be something that pops up again. It is just a very, very fluid situation right now. So your reg is not going to follow any normal patterns that you've previously seen. And just keep that in mind as you do this. So
I just looked at the CFP and they are, one is my test entry and another one is from someone that submitted a generic one on containers.
Yikes.
So no CFP entries at this point.
But also, to be fair, everyone submits their CFP entries in the day or so before the deadline. We just went through this with ChaosCon recently, where they were like, there are no submissions, should we extend it? And then we got a whole bunch in the last day.
at least people haven't changed that pattern with COVID. One untouched area.
Should probably
Little
send out some comms on
procrastinators.
that too, I guess. I'll make a note.
Yes. Okay. Any other thoughts regarding reg and messaging? At least at this point in time.
More of a side comment, like it mirrors what Deb said, but if people are doing what I'm doing and looking at case counts by county and looking at a graph, things are still moving up and to the right. Until they start moving down and to the right, they're not going to want to even register or commit to anything regardless of company travel policies. So that's another thing to keep in mind.
Yeah.
So we're all on an adventure together.
Yep.
We'll see what
And I
happens.
think, I don't know if Deb, you can answer this, but are things still sort of tracking along the path for KeepCon in terms of like reg and all that?
Yeah, they actually are. They're looking really good right now. So it's all good things there. But again,
Nice.
I mean, it's not, I want to set everyone's expectation. We are expecting smaller events across the board in person. So the KubeCon you are used to seeing will be just a smaller version of that, similar to how we're doing, you know, a smaller version of Contributor Summit in person. Virtual is compensating for the other side of that. And so we'll still have a strong virtual presence for both events, looks like.
Okay. I think with that out of the way, that takes us to the reception.
Yes. So for those that didn't see it in Slack last week, with the updated COVID protocols, Lucky Strike is no longer a good option for us. They have opened up for the public use 7 days a week. And so a lot of our space would actually be shared space now, which is really disappointing. And a full buyout is extremely over budget. So it's just not a good option for us to move forward with. The Ace Hotel is still an option. It is also over budget. And so I'd like to leave it as a backup option for reference. And I added some numbers in there. The budget is $20K. for the Ace Hotel, the minimum is 20K, but we estimate you'll actually spend 27 before taxes and service fees and things like that, or bringing in any activities. And for a reference point in 2019, because I think this is really important as we look at venues. In 2019, for 450 people to do a reception, we spent $22,000. And now we're looking at spending 30K for 200 people. It's just very high. Lucky Strike was also very high, not quite as high as the Ace, but also very high. It was kind of on the edge of being questionable. So we're reaching out to the Ace Hotel to make sure we can put the space on hold and be notified if others request about it, that kind of a thing, just so we don't lose it. But we're going to look at some other venue options for a smaller number of attendees from the 100 to 150 range, and see if that gives us a little bit better opportunities. Previously, we looked at venues for the 200 range, and that's kind of what we came back with before. If we adjust the number, let's see what we come up with, and then we can revisit this conversation in the coming weeks as we watch reg numbers and all that kind of thing happen.
Honestly, at this point, I do not expect 200.
Yeah.
Like, I would say at most at this point 150 if things are looking good.
Yeah. So I think if we reduce our capacity numbers for the reception, we may find some other options that are a little more within our budget range. We don't want to spend a ton of money that we end up just throwing away because we have to hit minimums and have all this extra leftover food. That's just wasteful. So we'll keep you all updated. We'll see how it goes from here. And that's all I have from my side for updates.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions, comments regarding, honestly, any of the things that Deb said?
Well, disappointing about Lucky Strike. Thanks for keeping on top of that.
Yeah, it's a bummer.
Didn't they try and like hide the fact that they were opening it up too?
Yeah, we've talked about it multiple times with them, and we had to email them and say, like, when do you have plans to reopen? And they're like, oh, we already did. And I was like, that's kind of shady, since you know that was a huge selling point for us. So a little disappointed.
Okay. With that, we can kick over to content. I don't know if anyone from the content team is officially here. Okay. I think it's just the update that I mentioned earlier, and the fact that there isn't really any CFP submissions. The one big thing is that this isn't quite Contributor Summit, but sort of is, just for like historical reasons, is the SIG meet and greet. And with it now being a part of the main KubeCon event. So we will need to start, poking leads and all that to see if anyone to check with their SIGs. And I asked them about this too during the last week's chair and TL meeting, that if they have anyone that is going to KubeCon that could potentially represent their SIG at that event, that would be super awesome. But we will probably need to start, sending actual messaging and all that around that. That's another thing too, where I think a lot of people are just going to be, they don't know until closer to the event, and we will see what happens. Any sort of thoughts around any of that content fun stuff? Okay. Comms.
Oh, hi.
Hey there.
I just joined. Sorry, I got pulled away from work call.
Yeah.
So we sent out the CFP reg email last Monday, early last week. I see that we've gotten no CFPs, so great job. I'll work on the reminder email, nudge emails this week, so we can send them out next week.
Yeah. It's okay. People haven't been, I think there's a lot of just a lot of hesitation around registering all that. Yeah. I'm
seeing that here as well. Yeah.
Either way, more comms is generally good.
Mhm. Yeah, so I will put that in the big Comstock once it's all bike shedded and everything.
Okay. Any other questions, thoughts for comms? Okay, that takes us to reg updates. Deb gave those earlier. Arno, do you have any other things to say? I don't think there's any other updates, but
Not really.
okay.
But I have a question related to basically the update gave by Deb. So by looking at the number, we have some kind of balance between in-person and virtual attendees. So I felt like we maybe shift the focus of the staff to virtual summit. Because at some point we may have more people attending virtually than in person.
Yeah. I honestly figured we would probably wind up that way. The harder part is generally trying to coordinate the, like, if there is any like in-person people with the people that are virtual. It's something that's like definitely on my mind. This is kind of hard to have like virtual facilitators with other people that are in person, if that makes sense. That's kind of my gut feeling on it. I don't know if like anyone has other thoughts.
Our original optimistic numbers were still like much more virtual than in person, right? So was always the plan.
Yeah, the one thing that might be interesting is if like if the majority of people do, like if a lot of the in-person people do back out, actually we might need to send like follow-up comms or follow-up message or thing close to the event to see just like, are you still planning to attend in person?
And another thing is there should be some sort of a threshold, or there should be some sort of a like, there is a point where does it make sense to have 4 unconference rooms and a main room when we're gonna have 50 people in person, not counting staff? Like
Yeah.
at that point, I think we really revisit what we were planning. I'm not saying, oh, 50 people are showing up minus staff. Okay, well, we're just going to do a virtual event. I just think at that point, it's like, okay, maybe it is virtual and a bunch of people just sit in one of the main rooms and then it's still more of a virtual thing. I don't know what that would look like. That was just something that crossed my mind.
And this is just going to be really hard to plan. I mean, I know
Yeah.
like the UK
Yeah.
government, they make changes to the travel restrictions with a few days notice. Companies do the same thing. I mean, when the whole pandemic started, I was in the US and I was on my way, literally on my way to several conferences. And I just got emails like, go home now. And so I don't know how much notice we're going to have for changes to registration.
Well, that was that was part of the reason why we wanted to keep most of the program unconferencey. Because if most of the sessions aren't decided until, 4 or 5 days out from the actual event, you can kind of assume that 5 days from the event, people are going to be 90% correct in whether or not they're going.
I'd say that's fair.
Yeah.
And that would be a reason for us, even regardless of submissions, to minimize the number of pre-programmed sessions that we have.
Event planning.
Yep. Pandemic event planning. It's like, let me roll the dice. Okay. At this point, is there really anything else to talk about at this point? Anything else people can think of? We kind of made it through our agenda. Okay. I guess we will call that there. Thank you all for swinging on by. And hopefully we actually do get to put on in person. So like actually have people there and people get to show up and have some fun. But here's hoping.
Thanks, everybody.
Later.